Hello everybody, and welcome to today's 5th grade informative writing lesson. Today we will be doing section 2, lesson number 25. My name is Jennifer Jones and I will be your instructor for today. So let's get started. In our previous lessons, we learned how to correctly identify informative writing prompts. Now, you may be sitting there saying, Miss Jones, why in the world did we spend 2 lessons learning just how to identify what a prompt is asking us to write about? Well, the reason, boys and girls, is because it's such an important step. The writing prompt is where we learn and determine what exactly we're being asked to write about. We must correctly identify our writing task so that our essay is focused on the correct topic. This is why we spent so long practicing analyzing these prompts. Now, when we learned how to analyze the prompts, we learned that there are 3 steps that we must work through anytime we read a new prompt. Step number 1, identify those very important keywords. Step number 2, restate in our own words what the prompt is asking us to write about. Step number 3, decide if this prompt is directing us to write about something specific about a topic or just anything we want. Is it a general open-ended prompt? Or is it a prompt that is directing to write about something very specific about that particular topic? If we work through these 3 steps, then we will be able to correctly identify what our writing task is and set our purpose for writing. Now today, we are going to learn the second part of the pre-writing process. Today we're going to focus on learning how to plan for an informative essay. Now, I know that you're all so excited to jump into writing, and so am I. But these 2 pre-writing processes are vital. We must figure out from the prompt what we're supposed to write about. And then we must plan so that we can take all of our ideas and our thoughts and organize them. If we organize them before we begin writing, then we will be able to write a very clear, well-structured essay that flows and makes sense for our reader. So today is a very important day. As we have previously discussed, when you write an informative essay, you are going to be writing about what you've read. So we call this text-based writing. What that means is that your writing is based upon text. You're writing about something you've read. You're not writing about what you already know. You're not writing to tell a story. You're writing based on the information that you've read. So before you begin writing an informative essay, you will always be asked to read 2, 3, or 4 passages that are all about a similar topic or theme. After reading these passages, you will read your prompt, which will give you a very specific writing task. It'll tell you what you're supposed to write about. Then you are going to pick 3 big topics from what you've read that you think are really important to inform your reader about. So based on your prompt and your reading, you will select 3 topics to inform your reader on throughout your essay. So let's practice that by looking at a couple more informative prompts. Let's say that you just read a few articles on magnetism, and then you were given this prompt. Write an informative essay to present to your class about magnetism. Use information from the passages in your essay. So we see that keyword informative, so we know our purpose is to inform our reader. We know that we're going to inform them about magnetism because that's what the prompt clearly states. We can write anything we want about magnetism because this is a very open-ended prompt. As long as the magnetism information comes from the text set, we can include it in our essay. Let's look at a different example. Okay, so now we're going to practice with pandas. Let's say you just read 2 nonfiction passages about panda bears, and then you were given this prompt. Your class is researching pandas. Using the information and examples found in the passage set, write an informative essay on pandas. So we look for the keyword. Do you see it? Informative, right? We ask ourselves what we're being asked to write about. Pandas. Is it a specific prompt or an open-ended prompt? Open-ended. So from those 2 articles we read about pandas, we would select 3 topics that we feel are really important and that we want to inform our reader about. And then our essay will be focused on those 3 topics about pandas. Does that make sense? I sure hope so. Now, when it comes to planning for an informative essay, we're going to use what is called an ITC outline. If you have your writing notebook handy, this would be an excellent time to get it out and jot down some notes. Now, ITC is an acronym. That means that each letter represents a word. I represents introduction. T represents topics. C represents conclusion. So the ITC outline is the basic structure of your essay. You will begin your essay with an introduction. Then you will have 3 middle paragraphs that are all about your topics. And finally, you're going to end your essay with a conclusion. This is what a blank ITC outline looks like. It may look very familiar to the IRC outline you learned when we were doing expository writing. So the big difference here is there's no more R's because we don't have reasons. Instead, we have topics because we're giving information. The T's are the 3 big topics you're going to write about. So T1 is topic 1. T2, topic 2. T3, you guessed it, topic 3. Now for each of these big topics that we have a lot to say about, we are also going to come up with 2 subtopics. I know subtopics can be a bit confusing, so instead of thinking of subtopics, think of your A's and your B's as details or examples of your big topics. So for each big idea you choose, you're going to say, what's an example of this topic that I read about? Or, what's a detail about this topic that I read about? All of your A's and B's and all of your T's are going to come directly from the text set, okay? Not from your brain. Anything on the plan will come from what you've read. Kind of makes it easier, right? You just need to find the information instead of think of the information. Now, since this is the first day that we've ever planned, I'm going to model planning for you. I am going to show you how to plan every step of the process. I'm going to think aloud what I'm thinking as I plan. This way, when you get a chance to plan in just a few moments, you can do what I did and think what I thought. Now, before we can plan, we must read. That's right. So please take out the Brazil passage set. There are 2 articles in this text set. We're going to read these articles to ourselves slowly and carefully. Do you know why I say slowly and carefully? Well, all good readers set their purpose for reading, right? Our purpose for reading these articles is to understand them really well so that we can inform our reader about what we've read. So for that purpose, we're going to read slowly and carefully. We're going to read in a totally different way than when we read for enjoyment. So every night before I go to sleep, I read for enjoyment. I always have a chapter book on my nightstand. And every night I read before I go to bed just for fun. Now when I read in my bed, I go kind of quick. If I don't understand something, I just keep going. I'll figure it out later. I don't read super carefully because I'm just reading for fun. But when I read a passage set, knowing my purpose is going to be to write about it, I read very differently. I pay really close attention to the titles, the headings, the pictures, any text features. I read really slowly and really carefully. And if there's something I don't understand, I use all of my good reading strategies to figure it out before I go on. So set your purpose for reading and adjust your pace and your approach as necessary. You should spend about 15 to 20 minutes reading these passages. When you're done reading, please come on back to the lesson, and then I will model planning for you. Go ahead and pause and read now, please. All right, boys and girls, did you finish reading? Awesome, I bet you did. So I read all about Brazil, just like I bet you did, and that was fascinating. There was so much information about Brazil that I had no idea. So now I am ready to plan. Now, my plan for Brazil is going to be an ITC outline. So I am going to draw a blank ITC outline on my paper now. Very easy to do. For each big idea, I'm going to write down 2 subtopics. Okay, so now I have my blank ITC outline. Now my plan is going to be based on my prompt. My prompt says, write an explanatory essay about Brazil. Okay, right, to explain to my reader about Brazil. So next to I'm going to write down the controlling idea of my entire essay. This is like the main idea. So what's this whole essay going to be about? Brazil. I know that because that's what the prompt told me to write about. Whatever I write next to I'm also going to write next to C. So if I write Brazil for I write Brazil for C. Now you're going to notice when I plan that I'm not going to write incomplete sentences. This is one of the very few times I'm going to tell you, you don't need to write incomplete sentences either. This plan is not for anyone else to look at except the writer. Okay, so this plan is for you. My Brazil plan is for me. The purpose of the plan is to get all of my ideas that I have and help me organize them. It's going to create a map of where my writing journey is going to go. A plan will help me organize all of my ideas so that when I write, my essay flows, it makes sense, and it focuses on one thing at a time. I don't want my essay to be confusing to my reader, so I must plan before I begin writing. But I don't want to spend too much time on my plan. So I'm not going to write, this essay will explain about Brazil. I'm just going to write Brazil. If it helps, you can think of your plan as like a shopping list. And what I mean by that is if you're getting ready to go to the store, you don't write down on your list, I need peanut butter, I need toilet paper, I need Oreos. You write peanut butter, toilet paper, Oreos. Short and to the point, right? That's how your plan is going to be. 1 or 2 words for each part. It doesn't have to be in complete sentences. So we know that this whole essay we're going to write is going to be about Brazil. So now I need to go to my passages and I need to find 3 big topics that I have a lot to write about. In order to find my topics, I'm going to use my titles and my headings for ideas. So the title for source 1 says cities to visit in Brazil. There's a little information about that, like an introduction. Then they talk about one city, Brasilia. They talk about a second city, Rio de Janeiro. And then they even talk about a third city. So this whole article is about the cities in Brazil. And there's 3 examples of cities. I think cities would make an excellent topic because of the way the passages are organized. So I am going to write the word cities next to T1. Since I have selected cities to be my T1 topic, I am going to box the information in the passage set that is about cities. This is going to help me later when I'm getting ready to write my paragraphs. Okay. Now the next thing I'm going to ask myself is, are there any details about cities in the passages, or are there any examples of cities? Well, I think we remember from looking at our subheadings, there are examples, aren't there? There's 3 different examples. I only need 2. So there's a lot of information about Brasilia, and there's a lot of information about Rio de Janeiro. So I'm going to make these my 2 subtopics, my A and my B. Brasilia can be my A, and Rio de Janeiro can be my B. So I'm going to label Brasilia T1A. I'll label Rio de Janeiro T1B. On my plan, I will write Brasilia next to A, and I will write Rio de Janeiro next to B. Now, boys and girls, while I was writing those names, did you see me looking back and forth? I was looking back and forth between my plan and the articles. The reason I was doing that is because these words are new to me. I don't know how to spell Brasilia and Rio de Janeiro. And Rio de Janeiro was really complicated because it had a capital, a lowercase, and then another capital. I had to constantly look back so that I spelled those words properly. Because here's the thing. I have a big responsibility. I'm writing an essay that is going to inform and teach my readers. So it's my responsibility to teach them correctly, which means I have to spell the words that are in the passages correctly. And if I don't know how to spell them, luckily, all I have to do is look back. They're right here for me to copy. How easy is that? I just have to take the time to look back and make sure that I spell them correctly. You noticed here, I made a mistake. I forgot my R the first time I wrote it. So I scribbled it out and I wrote it correctly. Please make sure when you're planning that you are looking back and spelling words in the passage set correctly too, because you're going to have a big responsibility when you're the writer. Okay, so we have T1 decided on. Let's do T2. I need another big topic for T2. Well, since I'm going to talk about cities so much in T1, let's pick something totally different for T2. When I go to my second article, I notice it's on Brazilian Carnival. There's kind of this overview paragraph about Carnival. Then it goes into the history of Carnival. It goes into the music of Carnival, and then it goes into the costumes of Carnival, but also just the costumes that people in Brazil tend to wear as part of their culture. So since there's so much information about Carnival, I think I will make that my T2 topic. So next to T2, I will write Carnival, and I'm going to make sure I spell it correctly. And I also am going to make sure I capitalize it because it's a proper noun. It's a specific name. All proper nouns must be capitalized. Brazil, Brasilia, Rio de Janeiro, Carnival have to capitalize those proper nouns. Words that are just nouns like cities don't get capitalized. So now that I've decided on my T2 topic, I need to find 2 details or examples of Carnival. I'm probably not going to find 2 examples of Carnival like I did for cities, but I know that there's details about Carnival. I know that because when I look at this article, there's a subheading titled History, and there's another subheading titled Music. Those are details about this festival. So for T2, I am going to make my A subtopic History, and I'm going to make my B subtopic Music. Because I think both of these are good examples, I think both of those are good details about Carnival that will help my reader to better understand this festival. Now, after I write it on my plan, I must go back to my passage set and box and label it. So this whole page is going to be about T2. History will be my T2A subtopic. And music will be my T2B subtopic. Make sense? Okay, one more decision to make. I need one more topic to write about when it comes to Brazil. So I'm going to inform my reader about the cities. I'll inform my reader about Carnival. Now I need to inform my reader about one more thing that has nothing to do with cities or Carnival. I remember reading one more part in the passage set, one more type of information, one more topic, and that is costumes. There's a lot of information on the costumes that are worn in Brazil. So I'm going to make costumes my T3 topic. Now costumes is just a regular noun. Whoops, see, look, I made another spelling mistake. Can't do that. I must make sure I copy the word correctly from the passage. And I'm not going to capitalize it because it's a regular noun, not a proper noun. Excuse me. Now I need two subtopics. So when I go back to this section on costumes, I notice that paragraph 9, when I skim through it, is all about how the people of Carnival dress up. Or excuse me, the people of Brazil dress up. So I think I will make this my A subtopic. And I notice that paragraph 10 is all about how dressing up helps to represent the cultures of Brazil. So I'm going to make cultures my B subtopic. So on my plan, I will write dressing up. Make sure everyone can see that. Next to A. And cultures next to B. Okay, boys and girls, that's it. I have just done a complete ITC outline in order to plan for an informative essay. So I have my main idea, my 3 main topics, and 2 details or examples for each. I have also gone through the passage and boxed and labeled everything that is on my plan. Didn't seem too difficult, did it? It's not. I promise you that it'll get easier each and every time that you do it. So now that you have seen me go through an entire planning process, it's your turn to give it a try. You're going to read the Earthquakes passage set. You should spend about 20 minutes reading this passage set. And remember your purpose. Your purpose is going to be to inform your reader about what you have read. So read it slowly and carefully. After you have read, you will complete the practice page for lesson 25. This is the blank ITC outline that contains the prompt that corresponds to the earthquake passage set. You should spend 10 to 15 minutes today completing your ITC outline. Go ahead and pause this lesson now and read and plan. When you're finished and ready to continue, come on back. Welcome back, boys and girls. How'd it go? Okay, I hope, right? It probably wasn't super easy for you. It shouldn't be. Anytime we learn something new, it should be a little difficult at first, but embrace the difficulty, embrace the not knowing. If you feel like you don't know and you're not sure and this is new, then you're learning, and that's a great place to be. So let's take a look at what you did, and then we'll see what we need to revise and practice from there. The first thing I want you to do on your ITC outline, check and see that you wrote earthquakes next to I and C. Beautiful. So we wrote earthquakes next to I and C because that's what our prompt directed us to write about. Next, check that you wrote 3 big topics for T1, T2, and T3. Not details, big topics. Go ahead and check that now. All right, Perfect. Let's go on to the next thing. By the way, boys and girls, if you notice while we're checking our work, while we're self-assessing that you made a mistake, or if you see something you want to fix, hold that thought. Don't do it now. I promise to give you a chance to do it in a little bit, but not right this moment, okay? Okay, so the next thing is check that for each big topic, you chose 2 subtopics that are either details or examples. Go ahead and check that now. Excellent. The last thing I want you to check is that you've boxed and labeled all of the information on your plan in your passage set. So you don't have to see if you did it right or wrong. Just look back now and did you box and label in the passage set? Excellent. I'm going to show you an example now of a completed ITC outline, but please know this is not the only way to plan for this essay or prompt. This is just one example. Yours may look different than mine, and that's perfectly okay. So earthquakes is next to I and C. T1 says tremor. T2 says seismologist, and T3 says facts. So those are the 3 big topics that I identified in the passage set that had a lot of information to write about. Now for each of those big topics, I then came up with 2 details or examples. So if we look at T1 for tremor, we can discuss the cause of tremors and the tectonic plates, how they're affected by tremors. Those are 2 details that correspond to T1. For T2, seismologists, those are the people that study the earthquakes. You will notice that it says study and tools. So those are 2 details about the scientists. For T3, where it says facts, this is information that I pulled from the chart, not the paragraphs in the essay, in the passage set. So for my A subtopic, I'm going to talk about the first 6 bullet points on that chart. For my B subtopic, I'm going to talk about the next 6 bullet points, numbers 7 through 13 on the chart. Again, this is not the only way to plan. It's just one way you may have chosen to plan for this essay. Take a moment now. Let's look at your ITC outline. Still, we haven't changed anything. And I know right now you're probably dying in your seats to get to the revision process, but hold on for me. Take just a moment and look at the ITC outline and ask yourself, what did I do well? Did I remember to put earthquakes for I and C? Did I remember to pick big topics? Did I remember my details and examples? So look and see what you did well. Next, ask yourself, what did you forget? This is the first time we've planned for an informative essay. There must be something you have forgotten. What was it? Did you forget to box and label? Did you forget that your subtopic should be details or examples? Did you forget to write earthquakes next to I and C? Take a moment and identify at least one thing you may have forgotten. Excellent, boys and girls. The last thing I want you to ask yourself is, what felt hard? So out of this entire reading and planning process, what was the hardest part for you? Go ahead and take a moment and think about that now. All right, boys and girls, excellent job. So the thing you did well, that's the thing we're going to celebrate. The thing you forgot, that's what we're going to focus on when we do our revision. The part that felt hard, tomorrow when we plan, that's the part you're going to sit up and pay the most attention to, because that's the part that you really need a little additional instruction on. Does that make sense? I hope so. So now is the chance that you've all been waiting for to revise your ITC outline. As always, start at the top and work your way down. If you forgot something when you were planning, if you forgot to box and label, you're going to do that now. If you realize when we were self-assessing that you made a mistake, go ahead and fix it. If all of that is correct, then check your capitalization, spelling, and clarity. Make sure any words from the passage set you copied correctly. Make sure those proper nouns are capitalized and the regular nouns are not. I noticed on my plan that I had capitalized a word by accident that shouldn't have, so I'm going to go back and revise that now. Check all of those good things. You'll have about 3 to 4 minutes to do your revision. When time is up, just stop wherever you are on the list and submit your work to your teachers or parents. Boys and girls, I'm going to end with a quote for today. The quote is, no matter how many mistakes you make or how slow your progress is, you're still way ahead of everyone who isn't trying. So if today felt hard, it was still a success because you're still trying and learning and growing as a writer. I promise it'll get easier and easier each and every day. Thank you so much for your hard work and effort today. Have fun on those revisions, and I'll see you next time.